Building a sustainable future starts from the soil up. As a changemaker committed to the intersection of food, community, and sustainability, you might wonder, how can your agricultural practices restore the land while supporting your business? For Black farmers, the fight is twofold: cultivating sustainable land practices while dismantling systemic barriers that have restricted access to resources and land ownership for generations. How can farming not only feed, but empower and reconnect communities? In this episode, we sit down with Thelonious Cook, the visionary behind Mighty Thundercloud Edible Forest out of Bird Nest, Virginia, where regenerative farming goes beyond the garden. Thelonious also plays a pivotal role in the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmers Caucus, working to strengthen networks of Black farmers, protect their legacy, and foster food sovereignty in the region. We explore how regenerative practices meet the urgency for food equity and how the work being done today ensures future generations of Black farmers can thrive. Join us today to discover the deeper connections between agriculture, empowerment, and community driven solutions. This conversation offers a thoughtful lens on why farming isn't just about crops, but about reclaiming culture, sustaining identity, and building a more equitable future. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and enjoy. Welcome to Impact Innovators with Felicia Ford, where we dive into the strategies that empower changemaker brands to leave a lasting legacy. Think of this podcast as your audio playbook for meaningful action. What's possible when thought leaders, disruptors, and pioneers align to share their journeys? I'm Felicia Ford, your host, bringing together the brightest minds and the most groundbreaking ideas to help you drive change, navigate through the sticky stuff, and elevate your brand. Whether you're tackling funding hurdles, looking for growth strategies, or seeking the perfect balance between profit and purpose, we've got you covered. Stay tuned and be a part of a movement that's setting new benchmarks in how we think about progress, community, and doing. Let's innovate, impact, and inspire. Welcome back, everyone. So, I wanted you to consider food, its source, and how we are going about our daily lives and thinking about culture and food and where it comes from. Building a sustainable future starts from the soil up. As a changemaker committed to the intersection of food, community, and sustainability, you might wonder, how can your agricultural practices restore the land while supporting your business? For Black farmers, the fight is twofold: cultivating sustainable land practices while dismantling systemic barriers that have restricted access to resources and land ownership for generations. How can farming not only feed, but empower and reconnect communities? In this episode, I'm sitting down with Thelonious Cook, the visionary behind Mighty Thundercloud Edible Forest, where regenerative farming goes beyond the garden. Thelonious also plays a pivotal role in the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmers Caucus, working to strengthen networks of Black farmers, protect their legacy, and foster food sovereignty in the region. We're going to explore how regenerative practices meet the urgency for food equity and how the work being done today ensures future generations of Black farmers can thrive. Thelonious, I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So sometimes I share with people that, before I hit record, we have a whole conversation. I have to sometimes stop myself because I want to save things for the actual conversation that everyone is going to hear. But we
Right.
met, I don't know, almost 6 months ago, maybe,
Mhm.
through a local source, through Edwin and Green Drinks. And I was so, number one, excited to find out about you and what you're doing. But number two, it really pulled me back to thinking about what life was like when I grew up, farming the land and feeding animals and gardening
Mhm.
with my grandfather.
Wow.
So to see that, you know, I don't think that I've seen a Black farmer in 20 plus
Really?
years. Yeah. 20
Wow.
plus years, 20 plus
Mhm,
years. But
mhm.
thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here, especially after having such a long day.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. And no, just thank you for creating the space, an opportunity.
Of course, of course. So tell us, Thelonious, tell us more about you. Tell us more about Mighty Thundercloud Edible Forests. How did you start all of this?
Yeah, so it's a 7-acre uh family farm.
Hmm.
I was thankful enough to be able to inherit some land, so you know, I was just really inspired to uh one, feed myself,
Hmm.
you know, and just have that freedom to, kind of, move around, and enjoy nature.
Hmm.
I think that was one thing um that uh, I took for granted, just being outside and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So um farming has a lot of pluses, and in terms of that.
Hmm. So what made you so inheriting the land and it's like, okay, what am I going to do with it? Did you automatically know that farming was what you were going to do?
um not necessarily as a business,
Hmm.
uh more so, like I said, just growing enough food, to feed myself,
Hmm.
and maybe give some, to family and
Hmm.
friends, and that sort of thing. But you start to realize how big of a responsibility caring for land is,
Hmm.
and it's 7 acres,
Hmm.
so immediately, uh, when I told the guy who was farming it at the time, that after he harvested whatever was in there, I would take it over the next season.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, now it's your job to, keep it maintained, keep it mowed,
Hmm.
all that sort of thing. So, just finding out, or figuring out, how to manage the different spaces. Um, you know, uh, that's also been, part of it that I've, enjoyed, because you have to kind of observe, the space over different seasons,
Hmm.
when you first get there,
Hmm.
to really see and discover what's all there, so yeah, it's definitely been a joyful experience.
Yeah, yeah. I always appreciate how calming your spirit is, and I can just only imagine how being able to cultivate things from seed to table um, really supports that whole lifestyle um, of serenity and peace.
Mm.
And I don't know that I knew when we first met about Mighty Thundercloud Edible Forest, but that is such a powerful uh, brand, such a powerful business name. So when did that come about, and what does that offer? Is it accessible to the community?
Yeah. um yeah, I mean, I actually came up with the name, I guess, about a year after I decided, that I was going to, farm. And um, again, as you started to put together, like, how you're going to go about it, what's going to be your practices, like reading a bunch of materials, and then,
Hmm.
I wanted to keep things as traditional as possible,
Hmm.
and go back to the old ways, and so just thinking about, coming from, uh wanting to communicate that in the brand, like an organic, sort of name, but a powerful name,
Yeah,
and glad that you know eh, your reaction lets me know that it was a good choice. But
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now, when we first met, I think what stood out in my mind about how you were operating, you were all preparing for the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmers Caucus. Share with us what that is and what you all have been doing and how your leadership is manifesting in that space.
yeah, so the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmers Caucus came about, I mean, years in the making, just because, like you say, it's so rare sometimes to see another black farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you start to meet people, and like when you do see a face, you immediately build a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and like a support system.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a few of us that have been farming, for 5, 6 years by the time like the pandemic rolled around.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you had like a new wave of farmers, coming in then, that were kind of looking to some of us, for guidance. And so, we kind of just organically decided to form a cooperative,
Mm-hmm.
um, to support like the returning generation farmers,
Mm-hmm.
and also support, ourselves, in terms of, sometimes we need extra hands.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us are like one man, one woman operations,
Mm-hmm.
and so to be able to call on, like a fellow, farmer and say, hey, listen, I'm putting up a hoop house next weekend, and get a few people over, and things like that build community as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went this past Monday. We were up at one of our sisters' farm, and she was building a deer fence. And so we got a chance to really tour her farm,
Mm-hmm.
get to know her a little bit better. Learn, exchange, knowledge,
Yeah.
tips and stuff like that,
Yeah.
seeds, do all those sort of things. Eat, of course, and then also help her, get her fence, built at the end of the day. So um, that's the essence of who we are.
Yeah. And I think you've just explained, I don't even need to ask why it's crucial to build community, um, or I would say community driven food ecosystems. You've just expressed that some of the challenges that you might face if you're a one man or one woman show, but particularly with Black farming communities, I think I would ask you those so that you could share with the audience what are some challenges, what are other challenges that Black farmers might face that I would say us, I don't know if civilians is the word, but I'm going to say
Mhm.
civilians might not understand some of the challenges that you might face as a Black farmer.
Yeah, I mean, well, one, um, it's it's not a huge, let's say, margin, for a lot of the products that farmers are selling.
Hmm.
And I think we as a uh, community or society in whole, um, has sort of lost the value of food,
Hmm.
because it's so, just uh, mass produced and cheap produced,
Hmm.
low quality type of thing.
Right,
We don't really value food, especially, and we don't think of food as medicine
right,
because we don't use it in that way anymore.
right.
And so there's a new shift now, back to fresh, locally grown food,
Mhm.
and using regenerative practices, because we know the shortcuts don't really work. Even things that some of our grandparents, that came out of like the post-war world,
Mhm.
and they were using, the Roundup and
Right.
pesticides, stuff like that, at the time, wasn't really tested, like
Mhm.
long enough to know like the long-term effects.
Right.
But that's just one example
Mhm.
of, um, that we need to get back to really, uh, building a natural ecosystem, and so for, um, what community people should know is that, yeah, it takes a lot of work, farming in a way that's, supports like, human health
Mhm.
and environmental health.
Mhm.
So, uh, just remember. I always say, remember your farmers.
Yeah.
Remember your farmers. Go down to the farmers market.
Right.
You know, support them. Um, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned regenerative practices, and I know I shared that when we did the intro, but can you share with us what that term means?
To me, it means indigenous practices.
Mm.
It means, basically how most indigenous people have farmed
Mhm.
forever.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
uh, and there always comes around these buzzwords, that,
Right.
sustainable, or like whatever the next buzzword is.
Right.
So it's definitive now. But really, what it is, um, doing things um, that regenerate the soil, that build the soil,
Mhm.
that allows the soil, time, to replenish itself.
Yeah.
You it, it, we know that like there's seasons,
Mhm.
and so that, y- um, once you farm on a piece of land, you need time for that land to rest.
Mhm.
And so we, during those, yeah, it's allowing time of rest,
Right.
you know, um, um, supporting it with, biodiversity that's going to encourage, living roots that then support all of the microorganisms under the soil, which make up that soil biome.
Mhm.
And so, uh, there's a um, there's a saying that, um, it's not, what you eat; it's what your food eats.
Mm.
And so, if your food is pulling up all of those micronutrients, and living, organisms in the soil, pulling up all of those things that your body needs, and then you consume those plants, that becomes a part, of your gut health, your
Right.
human body, which is the basis of our health, our immune system.
Right.
So, and so it's growing in living soil, and not using, um, pesticides and, um, herbicides, and harmful things that, or even tilling,
Mm. Yeah.
destroying the soil structure.
Yeah.
It's building up, sequestering carbon,
Mm.
in the soil.
So when you said tilling, I immediately remembered as a child, we had a horse and my grandfather tilled the land with the horse and the old-fashioned till that would attach to the horse, and the land was tilled that way. And before I hit record, I was telling Thelonious that, growing up on a what modern day would refer as a homestead, we never thought about it as farming. Like that was a way of life. That was life. That was exactly, and we had uh peach trees and apple trees and plums, and we had strawberries and blueberries and blackberries and of
Yeah.
course, like the beans and corn and all, we had everything.
Right. Right.
And a walnut tree. And I'm just like having flashbacks of childhood as you're
Yeah.
speaking, but also thinking about, once I came here for college, um, not really noticing the shift immediately. And like, I'm just going to say, like, my weight and my skin
Mhm.
health. And
Mhm.
I didn't realize how much it affected me eating from home, where
Mhm.
95%, the only thing we went to the store for probably was dairy because we had chickens and
Mhm.
we had pigs and other animals.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
and my grandfather was a genius because
Mhm.
he, again, indigenous. So
Mhm.
we grew up with those things, but I wish I would have paid more attention to
Yeah.
to what he was doing and why he was doing it and how he was doing it.
Yeah.
But he was like, he and my uncles, they, that's how we ate.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
aunts would can the food and
Mhm. Mhm.
after certain periods, and we would share with others in the community. But I just really relate to, and it just resonates with me so much about what you're doing and what you are sharing with the community.
Mhm.
And again, because you've had such a long day today, I can't imagine like what time you have to then educate on the agricultural science part of it, right? Because you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to be a farmer today.
Right.
It takes a lot of knowledge. My brother, who's more like, well, he's my cousin, but I call him my brother.
Mm.
He, you know, took up some of what he remembered from our grandfather and
Yeah.
has a whole, couple acres of fruit
Wow.
and vegetables and
Mhm.
all the
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's like the way to life, and that's like my goal to
Yeah.
eventually leave the city and go back
Yeah. Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
because that is such a holistic, not to
Right.
use buzzwords, but it is such a holistic, calming, peaceful way of life. And I think that social media during the pandemic, what do they call them? Trad wives, traditional wives who are
Mm. Mhm.
using things from the land and like making everything from hand,
Mhm.
farm to table. But I appreciate that they have, because it's like, to people
Yeah.
who never considered it, they're becoming curious about this way of life and what they're doing. I even had a patio garden. I was growing broccoli and lettuce and peppers and garlic on my patio.
Wow. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
On my
Yeah.
balcony. I was on a
Right.
second floor and I had
Mhm.
a whole, garden out there, but it was a wake up call for me and a reminder. So I, am a serious advocate for you and your work. And I would love to know, so what types of things are you growing now?
Mhm. Yeah, so right now, I grow turnips, collard greens. Those are two big things that people, down here eat,
Yeah,
especially around Thanksgiving time.
yeah.
And then I got kale, a couple different types of kale. Um, what else? Asian greens, bok choy, um, radishes, okra. Still a ton of okra out there. Winter squash,
Mm,
pumpkins, uh, beets and carrots.
mm.
Yeah. So, and some potatoes still.
So one of the farmers markets that I used to buy from on the Eastern Shore had Haman potatoes, sweet
Mhm.
potatoes,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
people don't know what they are. Um, so I'm just like putting it out there if you decide to.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a guy at the market I go to that that's all he has.
Really?
The same with potatoes. Yeah,
Oh, someone said to me, "Oh, you've got to be from the country to know what those are." And I'm like, guilty as charged.
right, right,
Guilty
right.
as charged.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, and it's that time, like you say, to load up. That time of year to
yes.
load up the pantry and
Yeah. Yeah.
50-pound sack of potatoes. Make sure it's in
Exactly.
there.
Exactly.
Mm,
And they last forever if you store them correct. Well, not forever, but they last a long time when stored correctly. Um,
that's right.
Now, I learned Thelonious when I had my patio garden, something that I didn't even think about, which was like the bugs and all that. And people say like, "Oh, Felicia, you grew up in the country, so you shouldn't be afraid of bugs." Now, that taught
Mm.
me that I don't like bugs and that there are lots of bugs that come. It comes with the territory. It
Yeah.
was a surprise. I just didn't think it through, but that is why I gave it up. And I was like, okay, but I'll
Mm,
support my, local farmers and farmers markets. I'm always at a farmers market.
mm.
But tell us, Thelonious, can people purchase from you directly, or would they need to go to a farmers market to support you?
Yeah. So this coming spring, I will be launching a weekly subscription box that
Oh,
people will be able to do.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and or they can always also go to the weekly farmers markets, which I do Saturdays on the Eastern Shore. Every other Sundays, I'm in Richmond at
Hmm.
the RVA Black Farmers Market,
Hmm.
and we'll see about next season what other farmers markets.
Hmm.
But people can follow me at Edible Forest on IG,
Okay.
and then make sure I put that information there.
Of course, of course. And what else can we do to support the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmers Caucus? How else can we support you? Because, I think about food deserts. I think about elderly people who don't have access to fresh foods. I think about a lot of different groups who need you and what you're producing and creating. And I wanted to be able to support
Yeah.
as much as we can.
Yeah, well, that thank you for asking. And yeah, people can definitely follow at Black Farmers Coop on IG,
Hmm.
and just look out for opportunities to come on the farm. Whether that's to do farm tours, to get to know your grower, know your farmer.
Yeah.
We promote knowing where your food comes from, and then uh, yeah, we also have volunteer opportunities.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of times farmers are working it by themselves. So
Right.
one day if you ever want to get some exercise or get some fresh air, that's always welcome. And then too, there's a lot of opportunities for other business owners.
Hmm.
Like not everybody has to be a farmer, meaning growing food,
Hmm.
but there's opportunities to partner with farmers, whether you're a chef,
Yeah.
you can turn, strawberries to jam,
Yeah.
people that do different cosmetic type products, or, herbs and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
even builders, builders, artists, like so many different professions kind of integrate with farming. So
An entire community. I absolutely love it. Like my listeners know already how I'll say I'm excited, and they really know that I'm really excited about things.
uh-huh.
But I really can't wait for more people to hear about you and know about you, and who can offer of their time and in volunteering or just in supporting financially, and learning more about how they can contribute to, because this is, and you said it, it's not just about like individual health and but it's also the environmental um, the positive parts of the environmental changes that we can contribute to in big ways by simply buying directly from the source. And I'm just really, again, I'm really thankful that you made time after a long day to share with us. And yeah, if there's anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners, please do.
No, just keep in touch, and yeah, support Black farmers.
All right. Thank you so much, Thelonious. I cannot wait for more people to hear about the mighty thundercloud edible forest and to see how they can support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Changemaker, real quick before you go, if today's episode helped you in some way, the best way to thank me is to head over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the channel, and leave a review. I'd also love to connect with you over on social. You can find me at Friends Call Me Fee. Until next time, keep changing the game.